Hey guys, this is Alan with Devil May Play, and we're back with a brand new episode. And today we're going to be talking about open world exploration.
Hey guys, Trip here, and Lark just told me what we're talking about today, so he sprung it on me. It was a
He is
surprise.
not ready, he is not prepared. Also, I've been playing an ungodly amount of Zelda, and unfortunately, Psychotrip here has not been playing it, and he
It's
does
a
not have a
shame.
Wii U or a Switch. And there's no
It's a
way he's getting a
crying
Switch.
shame.
But I still think that we can have a good discussion about some of the things, some of the particular game designs I'm noticing in the new Zelda, and kind of compare it with other games that we've played. So I wanted to talk about something really, really exciting with the new Zelda. I've played about probably like 25 hours of it. The first day I got it, I played about 9 hours of it.
Damn.
I'm pretty much addicted to it. My wife comes and home and finds me playing it like every single time she comes home, and she's like, "You're just addicted to it." I'm like, "Yes, I am," and it's not a bad thing. But I want to start out with a bold statement, right? I got lost in Zelda, and that's a good thing. Okay, I got
Ah.
lost playing the game, and I don't mean like lost in the moment. I mean I literally got lost and didn't know where to go, and kind of fumbled around and died, and eventually found my way to where I was supposed to go, but kind of screwed up a little bit. And I want to tell a story. Okay, so one of the basically the way that the game works is that there's an overworld map, of course, and you have towers, which I know it's hard to believe. Um, I like the towers in this game compared to a lot of other games, including Ubisoft, mainly because they don't list points of interest. The map, the towers unlock parts of the map, and the map just revealed the geography. So, like major roads, rivers, and mountains, and sometimes towns and things like that. And enemy encampments, you can kind of see an outline. But as far as the shrines, which are like the dungeons in the game, they don't actually reveal that, or treasure chests, or anything else. It's just places you've been, specifically shrines, and that's it. So if you're going into an area that you haven't unlocked a tower for, there's just a beacon, like a little marker. And I really didn't know how to get there. Before, when I started playing the game, I didn't realize that like roads are your friend. So I was journeying off to try to get to this point, and I encountered this insanely difficult enemy, a Lionel for anyone that's played the game. It's like a centaur with a bow that shoots electric arrows, and it just fucks your day up. And then I was climbing this mountain, and I'm like, I know I'm not going the right way. And then at the end, I get to the top of this mountain, and I finally see where I'm supposed to go. And I'm like, I really don't think I went the right way, but it like felt so awesome to be like, okay, finally, like I'm gonna make it. Like, and then I parasailed down to this little, it's the Hateno village. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I never do. And I got there, and then I kind of later found out in the game that I had missed a whole section that I probably should have gone through, because basically, if you know anything about the weapons of the game, they degrade over time. So if you go from a really easy area to a really hard area, you lose all your weapons. Then you try and go back to a really easy area, you get low level weapons, so that when you try to go to the next area, you're kind of screwed. So I kind of backtracked and went through down this road that I probably should have gone down the first time. But I was excited and I was happy that I got lost, because the game allowed me to make the choices that I made, and I still had a really awesome moment when it was like this relief seeing like, okay, there's where I'm supposed to go. Like, I don't really know much of this map. I know I'm probably in an area I shouldn't be, but I found where I'm going, and when I got there, it was a lot better than having like a dotted line to show me where to go, or if I had known, this level, like if they had level, if there was some way of knowing that I wasn't ready to enter the area that I did. So I just wanted to say, and this got me thinking, you know, you and I have talked about Skyrim at length, and while it's a good game in some ways, I think that the exploration was one of the most disappointing parts of the game.
Definitely. See, what you just described is something that we've been talking about a lot on this podcast, and something that we talk about a lot on our own time. You just described to me a journey.
Right.
You described to me a certain balance, a certain level of scale and mystery and a bit of confusion that a lot of older RPGs have had. Now, I'm the first one to tell you that a lot of old RPGs had a lot of problems, and I'm definitely not one of those people who, says back in my day everything was better. But there are certain things that, say, we were talking about Morrowind briefly before we started this podcast. What you described to me reminded me a bit about Morrowind and learning how to get around, finding yourself in dangerous places you shouldn't be in yet. All those little things that make you feel like you're in a world and make something as simple as getting from point A to point B feel rewarding. What I've always wanted in an RPG, especially a fantasy RPG, but any RPG, is to get that experience that you see when you read the Lord of the Rings books or watch the movies, that experience of really going on a journey of an adventure, going through trials, just trying to get to your final destination. And that's something that Skyrim lacked for a lot of reasons. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it's because of fast travel," but that's definitely a big part of it. But that's
one
superficial.
part.
It's missing that balance that is needed. There's too much clearly laid out for you that makes the world feel a bit more artificial. The world feels like it was made for the player, and it doesn't feel like the player lives in this world. And that's something that, at least with Breath of the Wild, I'm glad to see developers start to move away from that and start to kind of, again, we talked about this in the last episode about Breath of the Wild, but kind of moving backwards to go forward, looking back at older games, improving upon what they did, cutting the stuff they didn't do well, but thrusting those mechanics and those philosophies into the modern era. And honestly, I'm game for that.
Yeah, and see, all right, so game maps have just become so cluttered, so overloaded with information that there's no mystery. And I'll even say, I'm gonna say it, a lot of people have said that this is the definitive open world game, and I agree with that. I like the way that it's designed even better than The Witcher 3. I think The Witcher 3 still takes the cake when it comes to narrative and to like character progression, but until you really play it and see the way that the world is designed, it's the absolute minimum amount of hand-holding necessary to keep you from being lost completely. Like I explained, okay, so for the first, say, 15 hours of the game, I was kind of playing it, and basically there was a point where I just kind of felt stuck, right? It was right around the 15-hour mark because they basically give you a quest that shows up 4 different markers on the map, and you have to kind of decide where you're going to go, right? And I was like, where the hell am I going to go? So I tried a couple different areas and just got my ass kicked. I tried this desert region and immediately was just murked, like one-shotted by an enemy. And I was like, okay, so this is probably not the right way to go. And it would have been so much easier for them to lay it out, like go here first, then go here, then go here, then go here. And that's what most games would do. But they allow you, they trust the player enough to say, okay, if we let you fail, hopefully you'll learn from your failures and you're not going to go back to that same area when you know, okay, I'm probably not equipped to handle this area. And so when I hit that 15-hour point, I decided, okay, let's go back to the area that I kind of skipped, and I know that there's this whole road, this whole section that I missed. And again, I explained that the way the weapon system work, I was doing it today. I went back to the starting area just to get collectibles, and there's a lot of collectibles in the game, and not in a bad way, like a really good way, in a way that makes you kind of excited and little puzzles and things like that throughout the world. But the point is, I went back to the starting area, and even though I was murking, like just destroying all the enemies there because obviously they're low level, my weapons were degrading. And I realized, okay, I got to do this in spurts because I don't want to go back there, lose all my good weapons on like stupid low level enemies, and then go back to the where I was and get my ass handed to me because I don't have anything that can go up against the tougher enemies. Like the difficulty scaling. This game is a lot more difficult than I expected, honestly. There was a mini boss I fought that was, I wouldn't say Dark Souls level hard, but close to it. Just absolutely hard as shit. You've got to cook a lot. You've got to make a lot of meals. But back to what I was saying, the game design. You said it, I think, in the last podcast we did, where they set you up, and within the first 5 minutes, you're looking out over the world and you're just seeing everything. You know, one of the other things that I think is incredible is there's no experience points in this. There's no leveling system. You do side quests either for the reward of having like interacted with the world and helped out a character, or for the reward that comes afterwards. But you're not doing these side quests and side activities just for the XP. It's almost like you're just doing it for the pure enjoyment of doing it. And there's a reward too for most of them. But there's a reason that the game is right now on Metacritic the second highest rated game of all time. And I go back to, like you said, Morrowind, and I remember playing that game and just feeling like this is such a vast world. Like, I made mistakes. I would go to, what are those like crypt things?
The ancestral tombs.
Yeah, I would go to the ancestral tombs, raid them, and I've had this happen once or twice. Raid them, take something I wasn't supposed to take, sell it, and then I would lock myself out of a quest. So
see, that right there though,
it's a little bit too far.
I would say is not even too far. I would say that is just a problem.
Yes.
That's the sort of thing. And that's why a lot of people get, I don't want to say confused, but a lot of people misunderstand my love for older RPGs like Morrowind. When I talk about those games, I am fully accepting all of the bullshit and bad mechanical designs in those games.
Right.
But then you see a game like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that takes what those games did well,
and
gets rid of the bad shit, and moves forward. Because, you see, everything you just described, there's a very simple reason why more games don't do what Breath of the Wild did. Because it's hard.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to create a game with the minimal amount of hand-holding necessary to keep the player moving without getting frustrated. Because it's difficult to create a game that's just hard enough that lets you fail without the players not being engaged. It's difficult to do that, but the rewards are so great. You create an experience that will remain with you for a while. You create a game that you can keep coming back to. You create a game that's really, an adventure.
Right. Well, let's compare one of my favorite games to this game, which I will go on record saying it. I don't want to say now, but there's a good chance it could be my favorite game of all time. That's how much I like it. When you compare like the open world of The Witcher 3 to something like Zelda, they both do open worlds very well. But the way you explore The Witcher, right? You have markers. You know exactly where you're going. I don't think I never got lost in Witcher 3. Never. Because you can look at your map. You can see where you're going. And sure, there was a lot of little things along the way that you didn't cover, and that was still surprising. But Zelda went a step further and said, no, we're not going to even give you that. We're not even going to give you a map. Sure, you can follow the roads, and that's basically all you have to guide you. But they're still expecting you to, like I said, to learn, okay, do I want to take this shortcut and possibly cut out some time? Or do I want to take the longer route? Or do I want to see what's over this hill? Because they have built this game from the ground up, right? That's the thing, is that it's not just a flat. I mean, I'm using this.
It's not just empty space it's not just space for the sake of space.
What I'm saying is that, okay, this is a bad example, but I'm just going to say it anyways. I'm imagining if they had everything flattened, like the whole land was flat, the map was flat, it would be a horrible design, because you would get out of one area and you would have very little idea of where to go or what points of interest there were. You wouldn't be able to see villages. You wouldn't be able to see the shrines, because actually they make the shrines and towers, well, the towers, first of all, are huge. They're massive, so you can't miss them for the most part. And the shrines glow orange, so you can see them from a distance, and it's a natural, like, oh, what's that? Your mind naturally just goes to you naturally go to investigate. Now, if you had a game like without the geography that it does, and without the design, I mean, It funnels you where it needs you to go. It puts you on a plateau or a mountain or something, and it lets you look out and say, I want to go there, I want to go there, this looks interesting, this looks interesting. And then all these other little side quests and side activities, like you pick up a rock and you discover a rupee. So that teaches you, okay, there's a rock in this random spot on this mountain, I'm going to go investigate. Or
what you're describing, again, is perfect level design.
Yes, it is. I mean,
that's what that is.
It's
another thing
it's designed from the ground
to do.
up. It's designed, what I'm saying is literally it's designed from the ground up because, like I said, the way that they place the topography and the geography makes such a huge difference. And it's not just in terms of like sheer enjoyment of seeing like this massive landscape. It's also so that you're like, okay, this looks cool, I'm going to go over here. Or, okay, there's a shrine over here, because shrines are tied directly into how you progress in the game. That's essentially your leveling system. So you have to know where shrines are, and they don't hide those. They put those in plain sight, and it, like I said, it causes you to investigate. So I think that this is going to be a game that hopefully designers look back to. It could be a game changer, is what I'm saying. We're getting rid of the days, hopefully we're getting rid of that hand-holding thing that's been going on for so long, or that overabundance of map information that you see in Ubisoft games, which we've talked about at length. There's nothing exciting about opening a chest and discovering something when the chest is clearly marked on your map. I mean, yes, you get coins or you get equipment or whatever, but there's no sense of discovery. Right.
It's just code. It's just, pixels on a screen. There was no real sense of mystery. There was no real sense of narrative progression. There was no sense of personal progression. You just went to a point on a map and got what you already knew was going to be there.
Exactly. And that's the whole point of an open world. Now, I know there are some people, and I've read some comments and reviews on, of course, Reddit and other places where people are complaining and saying this isn't the game for them. And that's perfectly fine. But for somebody like myself, I really believe that my favorite part of gaming is just the exploration. It is. It's why a game like Super Mario 64 was so... I don't think if I had started gaming in the 2D era with a game like Super Mario World, I would necessarily have had the same bond that I did with the Mario series or with gaming in general. Like if that had been my first game versus Super Mario 64. Because 64, even though there's a ton of platforming, there was still a large amount of exploration to that game. Same thing with Metroid Prime, another game that I truly, absolutely enjoyed. And it was, again, a game that focused heavily on exploration and, learning the maps and learning the systems. And same thing with Okami. And I look back at all my favorite games, Red Dead Redemption, and they all have this common theme of exploration and open world. And this game it takes, like you said, it takes the best things of the past and it kind of injects it with the Zelda formula, although it is a heavily retweaked formula. Like, I really don't think that the dungeons of old are going to return at all in this game. I've made it to my first dungeon, quote unquote, and it was completely different than anything I'd played in the Zelda series. But they've done it so well that I literally can't think of anything that would make it better in terms of the open world aspect. It to me is the perfect open world game. It really is. I know a lot of people have said it, but I'm going to say it again.
And you just sold it to me. Now I just need to spend how much does the Switch cost?
Should we get a GoFundMe page for you? Help Trip buy a Switch. You might want to hold off on that.
Children, just get me a Switch.
Those controllers are I've heard a lot of reports about the Joy-Cons being like really, really bad.
And there's that shit going on with the dock now. So.
Yeah, they've pulled the dock from the online store. So
actually, no, I'm just looking at it now. It turns out it was out of stock.
Oh,
it's not pulled, but the problems are still there.
Yes, but that's a totally separate issue.
Right.
Let me just jizz over Zelda some more. That should be the title of this episode. Jizzing for Zelda. But I'm trying to think. There's one more point I wanted to make, but and then finally, so I got unstuck. I went backtracked, got back in the groove, and the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this was in previews, the way that the genius thing about having such a big open world is that when you reach a town or a settlement, or even like travelers, you get a sense of relief, like, I can breathe, because I don't have to worry about enemies jumping out at me.
Another thing I've been wanting for so long. That's another thing I've been wanting. Because see, again, that replicates the whole sense of adventure. And I keep saying that word ad nauseum, but I'm serious about that being what I want. And I know I'm drowning you out right now.
No,
but just,
go ahead.
That sounds so fucking cool. Because, okay, so if you guys have been following the podcast, you know I've been playing a heavily modded version of Skyrim. I just got back into it a little bit with some mods I made that, in my opinion, turn it into a decent game. And shit on me for that. You do all the time.
No,
not you, Lark, the people who watch us. But that's a feeling that I wanted in Skyrim, especially in a world like, Skyrim, which is supposed to be so brutal and
wild,
gritty and wild and dangerous. I want that feeling of relief. And with that feeling of relief, you get a sort of emotional attachment to where you are, to the locations. You grow a sort of intimate bond with it that you wouldn't otherwise. Yeah. And it's all that little stuff. Like, again, I've never bought into the idea that games are so quote unquote casual because they don't think that quote unquote casual gamers will buy it. Because I've talked about this all the time, but I don't buy that argument. What I think it is again, it's hard to do well.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make a game where, the rest of the world is just difficult enough and just scary enough that going into a city or a town gives you that feeling of relief. It's so hard to create a giant open world without just, saying fuck it and making it a bunch of empty space. It's so hard to do all of these things that Breath of the Wild seems to do perfectly from what you've told me. But we're seeing what the result is, what the reward is. This is one of the best reviewed games of all time. It's a console seller. This is what is selling the Switch. The Switch is a Breath of the Wild machine
at this point. Now. Yeah, absolutely. But here I can, and I don't know, maybe this is too simplistic, but just comparing Skyrim to Zelda, right? Even the way that they set up the map in Skyrim, where do you start out? At the bottom of the map, you work your way up, right? And you get fast travel points as you keep going north. Zelda places you in the middle of the map, literally. So you can go any direction you want, and they give you a marker to go east at first. Sorry, spoilers, people. But if you're like, I want to go south, you can go south. You'll get your shit kicked in. Or you can go west, and you'll get your shit kicked in. And that's what happened to me, as I was like, I don't know, maybe I should try this way. And no, that's not the way I'm supposed to go.
Another game that did that was Fallout New Vegas. Almost exactly what you said. I don't remember where you start on the map there, but the point of you can go in any direction you want, but you're probably going to get your ass kicked.
Oh, yeah. When you go to the Death Claws, when you're going north to Vegas.
No, not the Death Claws, the Cazadors. I hate those fucking things. But yeah, it goes back to your point. Like, in that game, you could, and they designed it this way, you could, quote unquote, easily just go in the opposite direction and immediately be a third way through the game.
Yeah.
But that is one of the hardest things to do by the time you start the game. So you may as well follow the road and go on that roundabout path that leads you to Vegas.
Right.
So it's that kind of genius level design where it's not teasing you per se, but it's giving you those options. It's making it clear that, yeah, you could do this if you work for it. And if you do it that way, you will definitely feel rewarded for it. And the game will respond to you by letting you skip the first third of the game,
which is pretty awesome. And that's why a lot of people prefer New Vegas to Fallout 3, at least in terms of, I'd say, replayability for sure.
Definitely.
Final thoughts, though. One last thing I wanted to talk about. So there's a section of the game that I got to, and this is probably like the last major section I came to, and I don't know if I want to give it away. You're in this section and you're following a road. And remember, I was saying that you can normally climb to get shortcuts and discover and explore. But for this section, they said, nope, there's a rainstorm. And you can't climb anything because, as I said, rain makes surfaces slick. So they guide you along this path, and it's pretty tough. And there are some, like, the enemy AI in this game, holy shit, they're good. They can spot you from, like, 200 yards away. It's just ridiculous. So what I'm saying is, like, as I was playing that section, I was like, this is kind of what I would have expected, where it's a lot more linear, but it's refreshing because I'm just like, okay, I don't have to worry about exploring for right now. I'm just focused on getting through this path, fighting these enemies, and getting to the end, and then I'll come back. But again, I just can't stress enough, all these systems complement each other. Even the cooking, it is a little bit tedious. I do kind of agree with some people that batch cooking would be nice, but you can still skip the animation, so I don't know. But the point is, the systems complement each other so well, and the game was so clearly designed from the ground up. I mean, the last game that really made me feel, I think maybe like Fallout 3, I felt that initial sense of like, wow, there's such a wide open world that I can go anywhere I want and explore anything I want. But the level of detail and just the polish and just the unexpected surprises goes, I think, all the way back to something like Metroid Prime, where no area felt the same. Like everything felt handcrafted in that game. And that's how I feel with Breath of the Wild. You have mountains, you have plains, you have forest, you have little lakes, you have, like I said, just an amazing amount of side quests, side activities. I even was talking about the puzzles. So you'll see along the road, sometimes just little rocks. You go investigate, pick it up. There's characters that pop out. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's all these little moments of like surprises. It's just endless surprises. That's kind of endless surprises, endless possibilities. That's kind of the best way to describe the game. And that's why it's so much fun to play. And that's why I played for 23 hours in 3 days and stayed up till like 1:30 the first day, because it just never got old. And I don't think it will. I mean, it would really have to take a nosedive like a la MGS5 or something for me to be like, okay, well, the first half was good, but the second half sucks. It would have to tank hard. And from judging from reviews, I don't think that that's going to happen. And that's good
only Konami can pull that shit.
Yeah, only Konami. Now, if Konami had developed this game, I would be worried. But hopefully I don't make you too jealous talking about this trip.
I'm incredibly jealous.
I know you are.
I'm fuming right now.
Somebody give him a Wii U or a Switch, please. But if you've played the new Zelda, what is it that you like about it? I mean, is it the open world aspects? Is it the combat? Oh, and by the way, this is a spoiler. I haven't been there, but I saw on the map there is a Tingle Island, and I'm super pumped.
You are hyped to get tingled.
I'm hyped to get tingled. So what if you played the game on Switch or Wii U? Just let us know in the comments, and maybe are we overhyping this game? Is it suck? Do you hate it? I mean, for us, like I said, I know you'll probably enjoy it when you get to play it, Trip, because we're both open world junkies. That's a good way to put it.
And I have a question for the audience. Do you think, and this might be a difficult question, but do you think that buying a Switch is worth it for Breath of the Wild?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know it's on the Wii U, but assume you don't have a Wii U, because I technically don't. Do you think
that 900
buying a Switch is worth it for Breath of the Wild?
I'll be honest, it's a little painful to watch the comparison videos where it looks a little clearer on the Switch. Because I'm like, it doesn't matter, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, but it looks better.
But I've heard it actually runs slightly better on the Wii U.
It runs the same kind of. They slow down in different areas. I will warn people that the frame rate drops. Like,
how can this happen on an exclusive launch title?
That's a different story we will save. I don't want to taint this episode with some negativity. We'll talk about it after the episode. Today. Think positive and play Zelda. All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.